here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of Dave Howard, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Cult Canadian rock pop artist who began his career in the late 70s, early 80s and is still going to this day. But anyway, you're going to find out more about Dave's fascinating life, also the Dave Howard Singers, and much, much more in this fascinating interview. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Dave, it's over to you.
Oh, this is going to be an embarrassing one. And it's a false memory too.
Excellent.
So on this side of the ocean, most nuclear families, of which I was a member of one, would spend their Sunday evenings watching a show called The Ed Sullivan Show, which was a variety show. And in February 4th, 1964, my teenage brother, who was a decade older than me, wakes me up, says, "Dave, get out of bed. You need to come downstairs and watch this. It's important." And so he dragged me down. He and I actually didn't have a very close relationship because when he went out, Mom would say, "Take David with you." "Mom, he's 14. I'm 4. Yeah, right. So anyways, he didn't care for me. But he would do these special things for me. And on this occasion, he pulled me downstairs so that I could see the first time that the Beatles ever played on the Ed Sullivan Show, which is, over here, it's pretty historically important, a thing to have been able to say that you saw. And I do have a vivid memory of it. So anytime the Beatles had anything to do with showing up in the Ed Sullivan Show, I would watch it. And they didn't perform live soon after those first few years. But Ed would get film clips or something, and he would play those. And I guess it was them performing live on the roof of the EMI building, playing tracks from Let It Be. But in my head, Paul was playing piano. Now, I've since watched that footage, and at no point does Paul play the piano on the frickin' roof of the EMI building. You just couldn't physically get one up there. But in my head, that's what I remembered. And this is so stupid. I thought, oh, he looks so cool. The wind blowing through his hair, and he's playing piano. And so within a few months, I turned to my parents. I said, "Can I have a piano?" Now, if I'd said a guitar, they would have went, "Well, okay, but let's not find it lying in the closet a few months later." There's like, "No, that's a piece of furniture you're asking for. That's big. Ask us again in a year." And I did, almost to the day. And they just, oh, crap. Okay. All right. So it didn't, even if it could, go into the closet because I was immediately attracted to it. And I began writing. Not anything remarkable, I guess I was 12 by that point, what a 12-year-old would write. So, there's a combination of, also too, as I've alluded, I have 2 older brothers, 10 and 13 years older than me. So I heard a lot of what they were listening to. I remember Pat, the brother who dragged me downstairs a few years later, said, we jump in the car and he turns the radio on and I'm listening to the song being sung on the radio. And he goes, "Guess who that is on the radio?" And I go, "I don't know." "Beatles?" "No." "Guess who?" And I went, "I don't know." I name another band and he goes, "No, guess who?" I went, "I can't think of it. I don't know who it is." And he says, "Guess who?" I said, "I can't." I said, "No, they're called the Guess Who." Ba-dum-bum. So yeah, I mean, there was just, Frank Zappa. There was just a whole load of things that my brother introduced me to.
Yes, It's always important having an older brother or sister. They can, turn you on to stuff that might have not been playing on the charts. Because obviously, in this country, we had the top 40, which was kind of one of those very important, things that happened in that period of the 60s, but especially for me, the 70s and 80s. Listening to the top 40 and the chart rundown, and records entered quite, like at number 40 or 50, and then they'd work their way towards the number one spot. Not always
Yeah.
getting there, but it just meant that a record would be in the public consciousness for quite a long
Yeah.
period of time.
I would think, though, by the time that I was discovering music on my own, which was actually kind of a rare occurrence, I was usually hearing what my friends were listening to. I rarely discovered something on my own, but the one thing that I discovered on my own was Genesis.
Oh yes, Genesis, we loved. Was that obviously that was the Peter Gabriel period, wasn't it?
Yeah, the original configuration. I was somewhere where I picked up a cassette tape that was just lying somewhere abandoned, and I picked it up, and it said live on one side. Well, that's no help to me. And what's it say on the other side? Trespass. I have no idea what this is. But I listened to it the whole summer and just fell madly in love with it. And nobody could help me. Nobody knew what it was. And then finally, I came across one person, and like by the following fall, the autumn, and they said, "Yeah, I think it's a band called Trespass." And so, probably by that Christmas, or certainly within a year, I then owned everything that they had ever created. And so that would be the only real thing that I kind of discovered on my own. But yeah, like you, I think one of my, other than Peter Gabriel, one of my other main influences, or maybe not influences, passions, was Bowie. There was just something that whole chameleon aspect of him just blew me away. The first time I saw him, again, it was on TV. I dozed off in front of Richard Nixon making an address to the nation, to the American nation. I'm Canadian, not American.
Yeah.
But I fell asleep to him yammering on. And when I woke up, he now had um, bright red hair, kind of teased out makeup, and he was wearing a frock, singing about the year 1984. What the hell's happened to Nixon?
Yes, I know.
Yes,
The
it
acid
was.
has.
It was. There was two TV shows back then. One was the Midnight Special, and the other one was called Don Kirshner's Rock Concert. I suspect it was Midnight Special that Bowie
Right.
was. It was a televised version of the 1980 floor show. So anyhow, and then, but yeah, over the years, decades, yeah, I was just fascinated by his ability to survive change.
Yes, I know that's quite something actually. I think that would sort of it was weird because I had a brother. I was the youngest of three, one 7 years and one 5 years older.
Mm,
And it was the one who was 7 years older I was particularly close to and thought he was amazing. And he had one of those record collections that he built up in the 70s, the mid 70s, I suppose, which I became fascinated with and obviously was forbidden to play, but was kind of always creeping in his room when he wasn't there to go through the records and play them. And he was into prog rock. So yes, Genesis, Wishbone Ash, Barclay James Harvest were all albums that or bands that I got quite into, and I loved the sleeves and even the solo work of Rick Wakeman. But
mm,
he was not into things. There was no 7-inch singles. It was all very serious and pretentious, and yeah, it was kind of interesting. But he did have two other albums, one Sergeant Pepper and one Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which I remember also at that stage playing and being absolutely mesmerized by the lyrics and
mm,
and at that stage, the Beatles, I mean, it's weird, but the Beatles had only just broken up, but it felt like such a distant past. It was like these are
mhm.
old men, they are just,
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
gone. And the Beatles, that was another period. And you think, well, that was only about 3 or 4 years ago
yeah.
before, but it did, it's amazing to think what that felt like. It was definitely been and gone. And now you just think, well, they could have just got back together. But then we had also the solo work of John Lennon and what he did, and Paul McCartney, which we love. Band on the Run was just awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, but glam rock, I mean, that was a big no-no. There was nothing. There was nothing glam about prog rock, was there? It was very serious.
No, and it wasn't that I didn't. I'm not saying I wasn't interested in glam rock. It wasn't something that, I think the first time I actually kind of went was, well, I'm trying to, I'm trying to figure out where my head was at. To be honest with you, I remember, seeing seeing photographs paging through Circus magazine, and there was some other Cream magazine too,
Right.
and
Yes.
seeing a lot of photographs of rock bands and heavy metal bands as opposed to glitter bands. Um, um, I think Queen was probably the first. I don't even know if they would be really generally categorized as a glitter band. I mean, Freddie Mercury certainly dressed that way at the beginning, but either way, because I mean, yeah, there's nothing really that abnormal about the music of Bowie during, say, the Ziggy days, or oh, Christ, I'm having a senior moment.
There was a
Gary
lad.
Glitter,
Oh, Gary
same
Glitter.
thing.
Yes.
Same thing with Gary Glitter. I mean, it was just rock and roll. It was just how you present yourself, not the music so much. So
Yes.
I think perhaps I was more interested in the complexity of prog rock, um, not the fancy footwork and the virtuosity. I hated virtuosity. That to me was just like endless dweedly dweedly solos and stuff. I really wasn't interested in that. I was interested in the composition, and I think that's why I did tend towards a band like Genesis, because there was very little doodly doodly and more like actual composition. And rock and roll, which again I would throw uh, Glitter and T-Rex and um, even Bowie into that mix. It's just rock and roll. I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying that there was nothing that complex about the music. It was more about the energy, which
Yes.
is valid. That's totally valid. I didn't find the energy in music until I walked away from prog rock in the late '70s, and there was this complete switch. I went from having long hair to terribly short hair. A buddy of mine who would come in and occasionally listen to me listening to Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, or things like that. He said, "Well, have you ever heard of Bebop Deluxe?" And I go, "Oh yeah, a buddy of mine listens to them." Oh, here you got a cassette. Oh, what's this thing? Oh, the Ramones. I'm curious about them, and that was it. I mean, the Ramones was just so bass. I mean, and I don't mean the instrument. I mean, it was so lowest common denominator. You didn't have to think about anything. It was just fun with a capital F. That yeah, like I said, a switch flipped in me, and I literally abandoned um, prog rock and
Yes.
headed down this new world, where then discovering other people who would influence me. One of my best friends, Brian Rurik, he and I had a band together called the Diners Club. He goes now by the name Deadlines. Um, he introduced me to bands like Suicide, Young Marble Giants, Bush Tetras, um, James Chance and the Contortions, Lydia Lunch, Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, a band called DNA out of New York.
Yes.
Just like, and so, yeah, that's when this whole new thing in me came along, and by that point, that's when I bought the Stone organ and immediately got a distortion box to plug into it, and not too long after that, the tape loop echo. And when we lost our drummer, I bought a drum machine.
Right.
And
Important. Did you, I mean, just a bit of a cliche, but you were in Canada. Was it Toronto that your sort of formative teen period was?
yeah,
And was there kind of quite a music scene? Because obviously, um, you know, Genesis has been very English, almost more than British, I guess. I mean,
yeah.
what was that? What was the scene like? What was the first gig you went to, or the first album that you bought that wasn't a found cassette of Genesis, Trespass, and Live?
I'd have to give that a thought, but to kind of answer your first part of your question, what was it like? It's unfortunate that the only two band names that I could mention to you that you would have heard of over there came well before and well after the scene that I came out of. So like anything between the band Rush and the Bare Naked Ladies, you've never heard of. Well, no, I take that back. You probably had heard of Martha and the Muffins,
Yeah, absolutely. God,
Echo
Martha.
Beach.
Yeah. Oh God.
That would be the only band that came out of our our generation that would have made it over there.
But there was a band I was obsessed with called Heart, Dreamboat Annie.
Yeah,
Were they Canadian? They were Canadian, weren't they?
Canadian-ish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
And
they were.
yeah, they're like half and half. The same thing with Katrina and the Waves. They're primarily an American group, but they were in Toronto at the time that they hit big. So by extension, you know, it's so and I'm probably missing a couple other bands that probably made some inroads.
Well,
At
my
the time,
brother was
but
definitely into Rush, and obviously I was at that age where Martha and the Muffins were, on the top on the top of the pops. Yeah,
well,
so that.
we're very proud of Rush. We're very proud of Geddy Lee. He was nominated in 1976, the best new female singer ever.
He must have been happy. Yes.
Hmm.
So, but then we also discovered that Neil Young and Joni Mitchell were from Canada as well. Was there anything from those two that you latched onto in a slightly, these
I
are
was I was in a repertory theater one night years before the Dave Howard Singers was even conceived of, watching the film Rust Never Sleeps, and he did his that concert in two acts. The second act was with the band, and the first act was by himself. And I went, "Wow, by yourself? Wow, that must take nerve." Well, and maybe that doesn't quite resonate as strongly to an English ear, but that's ostensibly that is what the Dave Howard Singers is a solo act. Even though a lot of people saw me performing with other people, now when I do perform as the Dave Howard Singers, I do it in the original format, which is with the original band members, me.
yes. When did wait,
Yeah.
I was going to say. So, what was the first concert you went to? I didn't
Um,
because often
yeah,
that's quite
I was stalling on that one because I honestly can't. I'm going to say it was. I think it was when my brother took me to go see. This would have been in September of '72. My brother took me to go see the Guess Who at a concert stadium. It's a stadium concert, and
right.
the Guess Who were also a very famous Canadian band,
Yes, God.
as Bachman Turner Overdrive are. As
They were of their yes. I unfortunately I'm not that familiar with dear old Guess Who at all. Am I? This is I've been.
American Woman.
Ah, yes, there you go. These eyes, no time laughing, share
Sure.
the land. So that's Guess Who. My God, I need to do some more research on this, don't I? Failed miserably on this one. Yes, God. So that was kind of classic rock, was it?
Yeah, yeah. That was they started off in the very early '60s. Chad and the something or others, and then yeah, their manager thought it would be funny to he figured, oh, everyone's going to know who this is, so I'm just going to print up white labels and stamp Guess Who on it because everyone will know it's Chad and the whatevers. And
Yes.
and all these DJs in Winnipeg in the Manitoba looked at it and went, oh, new band called Guess Who. Okay, here's the new band, Guess Who, and the name stuck.
It did. God, because yes, that classic rock of You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, that must have been on the airwaves a lot during that period of the 70s. There was another band called Golden Earring, wasn't there? Which
That's
was,
right.
that was all, if you see those compilations now, they're all on the same album, aren't they? There's something kind of like, well, I was going to say cock rock, but the 70s was a bit kind of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, wasn't it? That was very advertised as this is what you did, and there was, the world of that whole that period, wasn't it? Really,
Yeah, throw the
which
TV set out of your hotel window.
yes, and people have written books, on Pamela DeBar writing a book on groupies and stuff like that, which you wouldn't imagine it nowadays for various reasons. But then it all seemed very innocent and okay, but obviously, probably not. Yes. So just briefly, then, when you got to 16 or 18, did you leave school at that point, or did you stay on to do kind of further education and go on to do a degree or anything like that?
No, I remained in high school for um, a year or two more than I had to repeat a year at one point in my career. And then when I got to my final year, I was told I didn't have enough credits to get a diploma. So came back and really just had to do two classes. But that was okay. That gave me a lot of spare time to do my own things. And then pretty much took a year off after that to just bum around and then got told to get a job. So I did, where I worked downtown um, in our financial district, working as a messenger for a stockbroker, where oddly enough, almost every other Toronto musician was working.
Right.
Um, by this point, I was already in this band I'd mentioned with my buddy Brian, the Diners Club. And yeah, and then we left our suburban secure enclaves and got a house downtown with a bunch of other guys. And unfortunately, we lost our drummer for uh, what turned out to be not terribly important reasons, but just the same, they were important to him at the time. Um, so Brian and I tried to be a duet, gave that a try for a couple of gigs, but it just wasn't the same thing. And then I had already booked us to be the opening act for one of Queen Street's. That's the Toronto scene, was called Queen Street at that time.
Mm.
Um, they're one of the more prominent bands at that time, called the Kinetic Ideals. We were going to open for them, and Brian said, "I can't do it as a two piece, but we've committed. We've got a responsibility. Brian, think of the He said,
Yes.
I've been hearing you down in the basement. You've been writing a ton of new songs. You've got at least a half hour, if not a 40-minute set. You should do it yourself." Huh? What do you mean? He says, yeah, no, you think it's good enough? And he goes, oh, yeah, it's more than good enough. Oh. And so then I pondered that for a while. And then I thought, I said to Brian, I don't know what to call it. Like, it's just going to be me. So he says, well, what kind of name do you want it to be? I said, well, I probably should have my name in it, but I'm thinking like the Dave Howard Show or the Dave Howard Orchestra, but I don't like any of those.
No.
And he's sitting there with me at the kitchen table and he goes, well, you're a singer. Call it the Dave Howard Singers. Oh my God, that's genius. Yeah, yeah, thank you. So I have Brian to thank for that name. And
Fantastic.
then I called up that band, the Kinetic Ideals, and said, hey, just to let you know, the Diners Club won't be opening for you that night. Oh, no. Oh, we were so looking forward to it. I said, yeah, but I've got a substitute for you. They're called the Dave Howard Singers. Oh, you serious? Okay. So anyway, and yeah. And
The
so
rest,
because
yes.
I was a one man act, a lot of other bands liked having me open for them because I'm quick on and I'm quick off, you know? And it was, yeah, a lot of the promoters liked it. And so things turned over fairly quickly. I became a big fish in a very small pond.
Yes, well, absolutely. And you put out
Over,
you put out was it a cassette only of Alone and Gone?
yep,
This was it. And was this your own sort of record label? Was this a DIY kind of project?
thoroughly DIY.
Right.
So
Where
it's what
did
a lot of people were doing it this way. We didn't think we had budgets to press vinyl, and we certainly didn't know people who were pressing vinyl. So yeah, cassettes was the
yes.
way to go.
And then so you had that support act. Did you then sort of work a circuit around the neighborhood, being the support act for every band that was coming into town?
And for bands and local bands too. So yeah, oh yeah, I was playing at a minimum twice a month. Um, Sometimes like more. I could go out of town and do, you know, play every weekend if I wanted to or something. I still had a job at that point that I had to get back to, you know, Monday morning, um, and that ended uh, by the autumn of '83. I wanted to go tour, do some gigs in Vancouver, British Columbia, on the other end of the country. So
Yes.
I was there for about a week and a half, and so they wouldn't give me time off. So I quit the job, and that was the end of that. Had to take the whole thing seriously then. Um, and when I got back, that's when this photographer, Peter Noble, um, kind of took an interest in me. And he said, I'm going to England next week. Give me your cassette tape and I'll make copies of it and I'll hand them to other musicians, like, you know, famous musicians
Yes.
who in England who might be able to produce you. So he gave one to JJ Brunel. That cassette tape remained in his car's cassette tape because he got into a car accident, and so the tape just remained permanently in that machine until the car got crushed into. Then he also
Yes.
gave one to Dave Stewart. He gave one to Dave Formula. A number of different people, and Formula was the only one who kind of picked up on the whole thing. So by the following spring of '84, we flew Dave to Toronto, and he stayed with us for about 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, we got most of the recording down, but he wasn't happy with it, and he encouraged us to fly to England that summer. So that was my first trip to London, um, in that context. I'd been there before, but as a musician, and so we actually stayed at Dave's place
Yes.
and for a month, and he was just opening a studio in the old street area, and Yeah, I did a few gigs. The lobby of the Fridge was called the Cooker,
Right.
so I played that. I played Cricketers. Oh, there was some real like showbiz kind of a venue. Oh, in Soho somewhere. I cannot remember for the life of me what it was called. I felt so out of place there. Like people in gold lame suits singing, like classic cover tunes to a backing track, and oh man, it was just and magic act, and it was just crazy. And then I go up and I do dressed in my post-apocalyptic garb, as I was known to do at the time, uh, singing about road warriors and shit, and yeah, it's just so out of place. But anyway, yeah, that was a laugh. And
Yes.
then we moved. Then we moved there in the second weekend of October for
Amazing.
years. Yeah.
Did you at that stage, because David being involved with Magazine and Visage, and obviously must have been very well connected. Did you link into those kind of networks of his as well? Did he introduce you to lots of people?
Not really.
Fair enough.
No, not really. Look, it's all water under the table now, but um, there was what my manager Peter had told me. The two of them went out for a drink one night. I was back at home, and Peter was trying to encourage Dave to finish these mixes. Let's get them finished,
Yes.
and so that we can get the stuff out. And Formula, after a few drinks, finally blurted out, "I'm never going to give you finished mixes until you've got real money behind you, until you've got a proper label deal." I mean,
Right.
we hadn't even started courting small indie labels yet. Well, we were, but it was all very, you know, word of mouth kind of thing. And so anyway, it didn't feel like we were in a position to say, yeah, well, we're going to get signed to CBS next week. That was just never in the cards. And so when Peter realized that Formula was kind of stalling, he came back and he said, "You're never going to believe what Dave told me last night, pub." And I went, "Oh, well, then we've got to make up some bullshit story to get those tapes out of that
Ye-
studio." And so I did, made up a pretty good one. The manager of the studio bought it.
Right.
Uh, and we took them and we went to a studio called Gorilla. Who the heck whose studio was that? Can't remember. Anyways, Gorilla Studios. We spent 2 or 3 nights there mixing just the 4 tracks for that first Who Is He EP.
Yes.
And yeah, I did the artwork. We were going to get some professional people who were mates of Dave Formulas across the hall in the studio, but they sure weren't going to, accommodate us after we'd pulled that the old switcheroo.
God,
Uh,
that's very good. Do you have a bit of an adrenaline rush at this point as you sort of grabbed the tapes and went for it? Or did you?
well, yeah, I mean, it's yeah, just yeah, it's all theater, So
Absolutely. My God, this is exciting. In the world of indie pop, I could never imagine being
yeah,
when you're that age, and because the independent label idea or ethos all felt like it was going to be run by the good guys and everyone was going to be really decent. But
no,
then, no, I know. They were just as crooked, but with less money. I realized later on. So never
yeah,
mind.
yeah, and Crooked is like in Wrath of Khan, he doesn't think he's a villain. He thinks he's actually a good guy. We all know he's the villain, but he doesn't. So it's the same thing with any business person. They don't see themselves as the villain,
No.
even though we might.
They've
It's
they've
all
justified. They've often justified themselves or the actions as something
it's
pure.
subjective. It's
It is
subjective. You
very.
know.
So you've got these four. for the EP, Road Warrior stuff in your blender, When Will It End, and Beatbox Baby. So so this was with a band, wasn't it? You had a drummer or drum machine, bass player.
Well, yeah, I mean, Beatbox Baby had to be. We if there was any of the band on that recording, we took it out. And just left, the drum machine in there because you can't. How can you with a straight face record and release a song called Beatbox Baby when there's no beatbox in there? So yeah. But and when will it end? I mean, okay, so like in hindsight, would I have hired Dave Formula to produce Dave Howard's first recordings? God, no. If I had a time machine, I would go back in time and produce myself. But yeah, I was just a witless kid back then, and I had no clue about what you did to make a recording. I knew people who did, but I didn't know what I in that regard. Song composition was about the only thing, and I also kicked myself for not being assertive and saying, "Look, it's the ace tone and the drum machine, and if you don't get it, then maybe you're not the right person." But we spent all this money flying him to Canada, so how can you tell somebody after that? No, like so. My drum machine was a 606, a TR 606, a rinky dink. Some would call it a toy. But I could get a beefiness out of it that most people wouldn't. Dave at that time brought with him his Oberheim drum machine, which yeah, that's what professionals used, but it's all legitimate samples of actual drums in there. So yeah, you're going to get an actual drummer sounding drum from this drum machine. Whereas I've got this rinky dink thing that I'm doing with, yeah. Anyway, he convinced me to use his Oberheim since he brought it all that way, and to abandon my little drum machine. He even at one point tried to convince me to dispense with the ace tone altogether and go for a proper keyboard. And I just went, okay, now you're crossing the line, buddy. You're crossing the line. That's them's fighting words.
Yes, I know.
So yeah, I wish I could have. That was the nice thing about working with. Well, I think putting out the second EP, "Goodnight, Carl Malden," was probably our response to that produced EP that Dave gave us, which was just a live recording. This is what we sound like live, and it sounds pretty good. This is really what we want people to know that we sound like. And so then for the next EP that Brunel produced, although the engineer for that recording session pulled me to one side and he says, I mean, JJ is fun and all, but I'm the one who really produced it. So who am I to argue with Owen Morris, who gave us Oasis? Who am I to argue with Owen? If he says he produced it, sure, he produced it. And JJ gave us room and board and and bought dinner and told us funny stories and got us high. He had a huge brick of hash. Anyway, but my point is that Rock On EP, with the addition of Nick Smash on keyboard or on drums, percussion drums, that's still more rudimentary Dave Howard singers sounding. So
Yes, my God, that's quite. And were you at that stage? I mean, this is kind of the mid 80s. This is kind of the kind of height of interest in indie pop, wasn't there? There was a lot of, there was people like Momus, there was Lawrence in Felt, there was the John Peel show always playing sort of interesting and eclectic kind of music. Did you feel that you were on some sort of zeitgeist at this point?
I couldn't tell you. I had my head up my ass the whole time.
Yes, well.
I it's hard to see what's going on around you when you got your head up your ass. I I was kind of on a bit of an ego trip, trying desperately to stay grounded, but it was I missed a lot of things because I had my
And
head
where
advanced
and where did you produce Rock On with JJ?
in a studio called Space Ward. It was
Oh, in Cambridge.
in Cambridge. You've heard of it?
I
Yeah.
have. Well, I interviewed the guy who ran it or co-ran it actually, because there was another musician who was in a band called Jellyfish, who was going on about this studio and sort of basically buying any single or anything that came out of it because he thought the sound was so amazing. And
Okay.
then in my curiosity sort of went, right, I must go and find out more about this place in Cambridge, and was kind of intrigued, and he was confused why I was so interested. But there was at that point there was a lot of very good and interesting music being recorded there. And I think he'd moved from a little terraced house in Cambridge to a slightly bigger place, hadn't he, at that point?
Who? JJ?
No, Space Ward.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
No.
Um, it was a schoolhouse, I think,
Right, so he'd moved.
or it was a pretty big facility.
Yeah, well, I think he started in a terraced house in Cambridge,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, but
and
then
then
yes, it would have been in the second.
the
We're
second.
talking 80, 85, yeah, 85,
Yes,
86. Um,
yes.
and that all happened because Peter probably ran into John somewhere and said, "Hey, so remember that guy I gave you the cassette tape for? Of oh yeah, no, I got into a car accident and it's probably still in that tape deck. Oh yeah, okay. Well, here's an EP he's put out, or here's two EPs that's been put out. Still be interested in working with you if you've got time. Oh yeah, so it was then okay. Well, come to Cambridge and check the studio out. So we took the train one day and went to go check out Space Ward, and the Stranglers were, I think they'd already done oral sculpture. So unless maybe it was oral sculpture that they were working on at that time. Anyhow, so yeah, I remember meeting John then and checking the place out. And so then we came back a month or whatever later, and whenever the studio was free next, and John introduced us to this 18-year-old engineer
Was
named
that?
Owen.
Oh, right. I mean, because there was Gary Lucas, who was one the studio manager, and Mike Kemp as well, who was another producer. So
Those
you,
names are very familiar.
yes, because it
Yeah.
was Mike. It was Mike, I believe. I
Okay.
interviewed, and Gary Lucas. There are several Gary Lucases. One worked with yes, with the guitarist Jeff Buckley, but that's another story. He says, making it very confusing, really, aren't I? Yes. I know. He wrote a book because I think he had one of those stories. We worked with Jeff Buckley, was like, God, we're mates, we're going to be brilliant together. And then suddenly got the doof. And Jeff said, or his manager said, no, you're not, mate. It's Jeff and me, not.
Uh, uh,
Yes, it was. So he's written his book about what it feels like when you get the elbow, just as you're about to
mm,
say, God, I've helped you on your way. You must thank me for it.
right.
Yes.
Mm,
So he got, yes, he wrote his book about that story. Yeah, God. So at that stage, right, you're in Space Ward, JJ's produced you. You must be feeling slightly excitable at this stage. Kind of indie pop is at its height, with, like I said, between the years of 83 to 87, they're the years of the Smiths. Lots of things going on. It was, like 3 weekly music papers. Every city and town in the UK has an indie night. People are just desperate for exciting music. So did you feel like you were slightly part of that at that point in life? You can say no if you want, actually. That was, hello? Oh, no, he's gone. Come back.
you did hit re-hit. There
Yes,
you go.
there you
Good name.
go. Otherwise, this could be a disaster. Yeah. So then, this point in life, with JJ Owen, also Owen Morris, did this. I was just sort of babbling on about really the excitement of that period, 86, 85, 86. This is a great period of indie pop, and I was just wondering if you were feeling
Hmm.
this could be it.
Well, I
It
was always hoping it was going to be it. Yeah. Um, I mean, the next CP was even closer to "This is going to be it," which was Jon Johnson. Yeah, um, um, sure. It was an ever one step higher, one step after another, kind of a progression of hey, yeah, this might go somewhere. Of course, it never did.
No. Then so God, actually, you supported a lot of bands though at this point, didn't you?
Sure.
You were absolutely on that music zeitgeist at this point. I do. And you also
Yeah.
did you and you had an appearance on the Tube as well, didn't you? This
Yeah.
with Paula Yates and Jules Holland.
Yeah, that was a funny one. This was just as the first CP had been finished, was finished mixing. The mix was finished. The artwork was ready to go. Um, Pete walked into Rough Trade Distribution and said, "You really need to distribute this guy. We're going to put on our own label, but we need distribution. You're going to want to do it because they're going to be on." the Tube later this season. Oh, okay. And then Pete got on the phone and spoke to Nine Keys Television and said, "You're going to really want to put this guy on your TV show because Rough Trade Distribution's going to pick him up." And the bullshit worked. They both bought it, and we did get distributed by Rough Trade, and we did get on the Tube.
Right. My God. And what was
You,
that?
you, 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 you get what I'm saying here, right?
Yes. It's
He told the Tube that we were gonna. Anyways, yeah, um, yeah. He told them one thing, one group one thing, and the other group the other, and they both bought it, and it worked.
and
Yeah.
can you
People,
remember much about that afternoon, evening?
what, of being on the Tube?
Yes.
Oh well, I definitely remember urinating about two stalls over from Tom Waits, and we both said to each other. Um, I remember Nick uh, got stopped by some of the guys um, oh crap, I'm having another senior moment.
Oh,
Oh bugger! They
I
were the
can.
second. They were the second band second headline. American. Oh, damn it. Um, their story was that they put out a. Oh, it was a. Oh, never mind. I can't even remember that story.
No.
Um, the
It wasn't
American from
10,
Atlanta,
10 REM, 10,000 Maniacs.
REM. Thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
God,
okay.
this is
Please,
exciting.
please edit that. That.
I will. I'll edit all that out.
Okay. The one was REM. Guys from REM stopping
God,
Nick.
yeah.
Stopped Nick and said, "Hey, yeah, that was a really great set. Oh, thanks. Yeah, you guys are kind of like Suicide, man." I said, "Oh, I'm going to tell Dave that one. He'll like that."
Um,
Which I did. Um, there, come on. Power almost came on.
yes.
Um, uh, let's see. I remember so we had to actually get there uh, for Thursday morning. Um, yeah, we got there Thursday morning. We stayed over Thursday night, and then we left Friday night after the show. There was no after party. There was no when the show was over. It was over. That was depressing. But uh, so Thursday, we got put in a dressing room that was right across the hall from Paulie Yates. Now, she's since passed on, and so I don't think I'm going to offend her, but yeah, it was that. Yeah, we got moved. We didn't keep that dressing room. We got moved actually into an entirely separate building for the next day. Um, she wore a lot of makeup, that girl, a lot. Anyhow, um, so that's all I'm going to say on that. But yeah, so we did a couple of rehearsals on stage on the Thursday, and oh, occasionally you start into a track and then they say, okay, guys, just hang on a minute. We got to do something here. So you stop and then you wait and then you go back and you start again. And then you get told to stop again. And it was during one of those pauses that Jules Holland came in and, and looked at us, didn't say hello, just stared at us. I said hello. Now you got to remember that just a couple of weeks before that, the Art of Noise had been on the tube, and he was bitching, complaining about this isn't keyboard playing, this is just light switches making sounds start and stop. So he was really bitter and down on the on the Art of Noise's choice of instruments.
Right.
So when I'm there, and it's like I've even put a little sign on the front of the Acetone because I got tired of journalists referring to it as a synthesizer. So I wrote on it, "I ain't no synthesizer." And here I am, quite proud of this organ. It's a transistor organ, but it's an organ. It's a traditional, actual instrument. And I'm thinking, Jules Holland, he's going to be so chuffed when he sees this. He's going to say, "May I play it?" And I'll say, "Please, by all means." And he walks up to it and he looks at it and he wipes one finger across the keyboard and then inspects whatever dust there is on the tip of his finger and rubs it off, and then turned and walked away. I was like, "Oh, so you're a cunt. Oh, that's disappointing. I thought he's going to be a nice guy." Oh
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
let's see what else. Yeah, it was just very busy and very fun. Got along really well with the crew. That's the important thing. I really couldn't have cared less about the hosts. It was the crew that they're the ones who are going to make you look good, and they did. They boy, they just said, "Hey, like, do you want anything? What do you want the stage to look like?" And I went, "Well, we're going to be singing Road Warriors, so how could we have like a car crash on the set?" And so they had all these like kiddie cars that they had set up on the stage, piled up on top of each other as though there'd been a car accident. They even made my logo into this big, I don't know, 10-foot diameter sign that hung behind us. They said, "Do you want to take this with you?" And I went, "Oh, I so want to take it with me," but we took the bus. We didn't bring a van. We don't have a car. No, we took the bus. So yeah, we can't take it with us.
Oh no, God, that's such a
Yeah, I
shame.
know. I know.
I wonder where it is now. Blimey.
It got turned into something else. So,
Yes.
but yeah. So, but the tube was fun. We Nick and I took a stroll around Newcastle. It was very nice. And the night before, I think Mark Allman was playing somewhere, or maybe that was that would have been the Thursday night. Mark Allman was playing somewhere, and so we went to go check that out, and it was a fun little trip.
I would imagine. So then,
Yeah.
as the 80s progressed, you started still sort of releasing EPs and working with people. You worked with Steve Bolton from Atomic Rooster, who I interviewed very recently. So did you bring him in to play electric guitar at this stage?
We tried working together, but again, this was a much younger me who, to be honest with you, I didn't leave Steve a square inch to play in. By this point, I was composing. I basically transformed or substituted a drum machine for a sampler and a computer, and so I was able to create arrangements to my heart's content, and I'm not satisfied until I think I've got the whole thing finished. And it never even occurred to me to leave room for another instrument. So yeah, I remember working with Steve, but he played guitar for Donny Osmond, right?
God. Oh yes, I should have been paying
Well,
more.
he also worked. Did he work with Richard Strange?
He might have done. I'll have to have a quick look because I must admit that was last month when because they got a new album out, actually, guitarist. I mean, he did have quite a discography of different bands that he worked with, and there was a lot of people that he sort of, I don't know, would turn up, and a bit like one of those experiences of thinking, oh, it was Paul Young. He worked with Paul Young for a long period of time, and then he did various other things with The Who. Um, Atomic Rooster, Paul Young, and then don't know. I mean, I think he did appear on various different places. Oh, Scott Walker. He had an interesting Scott Walker story, which was a bit odd. I think, bit like you would imagine. Yeah. So no, I don't know about Donny Osmond actually, but he has been around, and he's still rocking with Atomic Rooster. So with a new album that's just out this month. So
Well, that's good. I'm desperately trying to. Oh, maybe I got to move that. Okay.
yeah,
I'm trying to find photographs of him so that I can go because I'm
you
not sure if I'm thinking of the right guy.
you might have been, but then you worked with this guy called Bick, didn't you? Who was in the band called Ring? Did he?
Oh, okay. Well, let's. So um. Well, let's. Yeah. Let's. So I before Bick was um Simon Walker. Simon was the replacement for Terry Terry Bickers when he got fired from House of Love,
Right.
and Simon and I had been. Um, so I met Simon in the pub down the road, and we would get into very interesting conversations. He was one of the few people that understood the kind of guitar playing that my buddy Brian Rurik had developed, had been playing back in the early '80s when we were the Diners Club, and there was one Diners Club song that I thought would be really neat to be able to play, um, called "God Is on Our Side." And I taught it to Simon, and man, he totally got it. And so we did. Yeah, we started kind of doing a like a faux diners club kind of a thing with the computer. But he said it would probably be better if we had a proper band. He then told me about a drummer he knew who was really good by the name of Daniel Howard, and I went, "What? I like the last name." Um, and also, too, weirdly enough, in between, I told you that my brother, my next oldest brother, was a decade and apart from me. There would have been a brother in between us, and Dad, being staunch Irish Roman Catholic, made sure that the kid got baptized, but he only lived about 10 hours, but he was baptized as Daniel, and
Mm.
so that was kind of like a spooky thing as I'm meeting this guy named Daniel Howard, and so I don't know. I worked with him purely because of that, um, and then and then we didn't know who we were going to get to play bass. But this guy that was hanging out with us, yeah, Beck, said, "Well, I'm a guitar player, but I could play bass." So we gave it a try. Um, and I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. And it seemed to be working out. Although I thought Daniel's not playing as well as I would like, so I might have to do something there. And then after several months, Vic just phoned me one morning the night before a gig and said, "Yeah, I can't play with you guys anymore. I'm going to join the Cardiacs."
Right.
Oh, okay. We've got a gig tonight. Yeah, I can't do that. Okay. Okay. So fortunately for us, Kevin Hearn from Stump lived down the street, and he was a good friend. And I said, "Do you know some of my stuff?" And he goes, "Yeah." "Do you think you could play it tonight?" "Oh, okay." So Kevin Hearn was my bass player for about 3 or 4 months until we found Bevan Rocknaw. Yeah, that's what he's calling himself, Bevan Rocknaw
Right.
Burke. And he became the bass player at the end. So we were a four-piece, and then rehearsing at the local Dole office in Peckham that Bevan had squatted after they left it and opened a new building or new offices next door. Anyway, um, then at that point it was when, so we're talking now 87, 88, and yeah, that's when Terry Bickers lit a cigarette with a 5-pound note in the van, and Guy Chadwick said, "You're fired."
Right.
And 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 so Simon got the phone call. "You're the only person that we can trust to play our stuff." Kind of like what Kevin Hopper did for me by suddenly jumping in the last second to play bass. Um, I did say Kevin Hopper earlier, right?
Yes. Kev.
Okay. Occasionally I say Kevin Hearn. Kevin
Right.
Hearn's the key. Kevin Hearn is the keyboard player from the Bare Naked Ladies. He's a very dear friend of mine, and I sometimes do that. So Kevin Hopper from Stump, the bass player from Stump, who used to live down the street from me in Camberwell. Anyway, Simon got swept away from us, and so we became a three-piece. And quite frankly, we sounded a hell of a lot better for it.
Mm.
So as much as I loved Simon, and as much as I loved him introducing me to various people, yeah, that was kismet, and so yeah, it was a three-piece.
My God, you
But
did go.
by that point, it was all kind of sliding downhill because nobody was really interested anymore. I was mostly playing in um, uh, squats and performing mostly for Krusty's.
Oh,
And
right. So did you ever go to is it the ambulance station, one of those famous kind of squat venue places that was around
yeah,
London?
never when anyone was performing. I was always missing those. We showed up the night after um, Jesus and the Mary Chain did their show at the ambulance hall. Yeah, we missed that one. Um, that was me. That was me and Nick, though. That was going back to. Yeah, no, the ambulance hall was, yeah, that was more like 80, 85, 86. But by this point, we're talking now like 89, 90.
Right.
So
So at that point, who was in the back? God, I've slightly lost some of your. So Simon had left, hadn't he? Simon Walker had gone, Bick had gone,
yeah,
Kev had gone, Terry had gone. Does that mean you're left with Bevan and Daniel Howard?
Yeah, Terry, by the way, was never in my band. That was the House of Love I was referring to.
Right. So yes. Oh, he was one of the people that
Yeah,
helped you. Yeah,
and
introduce. Yes, I got you.
no, actually, no. I met Terry through Simon. I met all those guys through Simon. Oddly enough, though, at one point I was with the same publishing company, EMI, and might have met them at a Christmas dinner or Christmas party or something. But yeah, I mean, the House of Love were a Camberwell band, and so they all lived in that same area. I got along with Chris Groot. He was good. Um, Terry would drop by sometimes after he got kicked out of the band, and would come by and want to hang out. He was starting to do Levitation at that point, which
Yes.
then Vic joined Levitation, so he left the Cardiacs to join Levitation. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, so yes, after Vic was Kevin, after Kevin was Bevan. Um, During the both those times, it was with Simon and Daniel, and then Simon left to join the House of Love, so it was just Bevan and Daniel and I, and then after about a year and a half, Bevan and I couldn't agree on something, and so he left the band, and Daniel was playing for another band occasionally called Mecca, and so
Right.
he recommended their bass player, um, Subs, and so Subs was playing for me, and that was pretty much for the final year that I lived in England, um, and I left first week of June 1992.
Right, because you got your last record deal was Ghetto Recordings, wasn't it? So there was one release on there.
Yeah, I wish I could say I had a record deal with them. Yeah, they did. We did release one single. It was supposed to be the beginning of a whole album. Um, Gosh, it was Christmas of, I want to say, 89, 90. You can check me on that, or fact check me on that. It I was going to fly back to Toronto for Christmas for the holidays for a month, and so it was literally the 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 day before I got on the plane, and Ghetto had a signing party for me, and the lawyers had still hadn't couldn't come to terms. So I had to get on the plane without having signed the deal. But when you come back in a month, well, then we'll sign it then. Okay, fine. And what happened over the holidays? Jeff Travis buggered up Rough Trade Distribution,
Oh,
went
yes.
bankrupt, and everybody except uh, the KLF and I guess Mute Records basically went bankrupt as a result, and so Ghetto Records was one of them. They didn't have a distributor, so that was
Right.
that. I I did try to encourage Pinnacle to pick it up, but they just went, we're swamped. Everybody's coming to us right now, so you know. Anyway, so yeah, the writing was on the wall, and
Yes.
I quickly realized, yeah, I think the party's over, and I think I'm going to be turning a big page in the book. So the last thing I was offered was a chance to do 2 weeks in Russia. The band Mecca the year before had played 2 weeks in Russia, and Bevan and I were sitting there twiddling our thumbs for 2 weeks while Daniel was away. and with no, no drummer. We were basically grounded, he and I. The following year came along. By this point, now I'm using their bass player, so it's like now I'm going to lose the drummer and the bass player for 2 weeks, and so I called up Nick. Christ, I can't remember Nick's last name. He was the singer of Mecca, but he was also the manager.
Oh, is it Nick Gayland? Gallen?
That's not ringing a bell.
Oh,
But
was
anyway,
it?
he hmm?
I just no. I was just having a look at discography and just thinking he was the vocalist. Yeah, Nick Galen.
That was it. Okay, all right. Um, just still not ringing a bell, but yeah, I mean, I'll believe you. Uh, anyways, Nick said, I said, so you're going to Russia, huh? He says, yeah. I said, if you paid for one other person, me, you'd have a whole other band, right? And he goes, oh, well, yeah, I don't know about that, but okay. Anyways, I think he had, now who's the other solo act? The guitar guy from the early 80s. Very,
What, Billy Bragg?
Billy Bragg. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Good on
Oh,
you.
thank you for that.
Yeah, good for you. I think he had Billy Bragg as the third act in that tour, and Bragg uh, pulled out. And so suddenly I get a phone call from Nick, and he goes, "Yeah, you're in." I was like, "Awesome!" Like, I didn't care about the politics. I didn't care about any of that. The funny thing is that so back in let's say 87, whenever the Rock On video first aired on the indie chart, on the chart show,
Yes.
um, that would have been a Friday night, and I had a gig, I don't know, somewhere like Walthamstow or something, and my opening act was this new three-piece called Nitzareb.
Oh.
And so they just had all this black and red propaganda paraphernalia draping the stage, and they had a pretty damn good following of very Aryan-looking people. But anyhow, good on them. But I said, hey, is there TV in here somewhere? And they said, yeah. And why? I said, oh, I want to catch my video on the chart show. So that's what I remember of my gig with Nitzareb.
Hmm.
But so when we're doing this tour of Russia, I said to Nick, he said, "Yeah, we've got." I said, "Who's the other band?" And he goes, "Nitzareb." And I went, "Oh, okay, great. Well, I guess the tables are turned now. They're the headline, and I'm opening for them. Well, fair enough." Oh man, Donnie from Nitzareb, he just would not. He would not let me forget that. He just rubbed it in. But anyways, I didn't care. I really didn't care. I was playing. I mean, it wasn't just Russia. The first week was Siberia. Okay. I mean, I didn't know too many people. I mean, yeah, you could go to Russia, sure. How many people can say they've been to Siberia? That's really freaking cool. So anyway, I mean, I even got arrested for smoking dope by the police in Siberia, and I got out of it like within an hour. I got out of it, and it's a long story, and I would love to tell it to you, but I don't think you've got time for that. So maybe another time. But
Yes. Well, but
but
yes,
that
curious.
was like a real joy for me. At that age, when my father was that age, he went on, being a pilot, he went on an expedition to the Antarctica in 1935 when he was 25. And here I was just turned 30. So this was going to be my trip to an exotic location, and so yeah, it was, to me it was like a very fitting end and finale to an 8-year career
Well, yes.
in England.
So, just what were the crowds like in Siberia or Russia and Russia? Did you have
Awesome.
some? Were they desperate for it? Excited?
Not desperate, just not jaded, you know? They had no expectations. They just were enthusiastic. I remember GQ magazine were there to journalize it, mostly for on the behalf of Nitsarev. And I remember reading it later, and how the journalists thought that my performing was shoddy and amateurish, and this, that, and the other thing. And that's really because, well, I'm dealing with a lot of old equipment that will, bugger itself up on me in mid performance. And so, yeah, I've got to improvise around it. Also, too, if I make a mistake, I don't hide it. I make a joke of it. I own it, and I try to make the audience laugh along with me. So if he felt that that was amateurish and so forth, fine. But no, the Russian people were very very warm, and like a great bunch of people. I you know I we not a very popular country at the moment, but that's like a tiny portion of the population that's doing it to them. The rest of the people are just so down to earth and regular folk, um, and they are almost as multicultural as uh, as this continent is at the moment. They're just like, imagine, just think of all the ethnicities that surround uh, Russia and Siberia, north, south, east, west, and they've been intermingling for centuries, toing and froing, and yeah, it's just like it's so. I think more it was the Siberian audiences were probably the most receptive. Again, Moscow, St. Petersburg, same kind of similar thing, but there was more of a European sophistication that in Siberia it was very earthy, very rural, kind of an audience, and yeah, I liked it. Its honesty.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
amazing. But then once that happened, was it 92 then when you decided you're going to call it a day and
yeah,
go back to
yeah,
Canada? So,
yeah.
so yes. So then the 90s and most of the O years, you were just doing another career at this stage.
I uh, I tried to pick up where I left off in London with a drummer and a bass player in Toronto, but it wasn't the same thing. The formula wasn't the same. Well, no, sorry, the chemistry wasn't the same, is what I meant to say. And I mean, nothing against their musicianship. It just didn't click the same way. Also, too, um, some people asked me that when Nick Smash left the Dave Howard Singers, which was probably, other than the solo act, the duet with Nick Smash was probably the best iteration of the Dave Howard Singers, just because of the simplicity of it. And why didn't I just, when he left, why didn't I find another percussionist to do the same thing? And on paper, yeah, I probably should have. That would have been probably a smarter career move on my part. But I'm also a slave to my creative urges, and so I tend to want to move on to something else that might be interesting to explore. And so each iteration was a different take. And so I shouldn't have tried to recreate the band that I'd had in London, recreate it in Toronto. I should have just tried, inventing something new and picking it up from there. But oh, we did do quite a few gigs. We opened for the Fall
Right.
one night at a venue, and I got into a very bad habit of like if it was Road Warrior I was singing that night, I went, "The Road Warrior is a little higher." Every word I ended with But I just hope Mark Smith wasn't listening. But anyways, I thought it was funny.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, it wasn't growing and it wasn't evolving, and it was so I I retired sort of from music. Not really, but I told myself I was. I started focusing on, well, I was focusing more on syncopated music, instrumentals, sampling. I did a lot of heavy sampling. One of my neighbors in Camberwell, Morris Gould, Mixmaster Morris, he he showed me what most sampling people should be doing. He once said, if I don't sample at least one sample a day, I feel I'm not doing my job. Okay. Um, so yeah, I learned from him on what sampling could be, and so now I did produce an album that never got released called "Buff Me in Your Splendor," um, and you can find it somewhere online. Sometimes some people have uploaded uh, rough cassette copy versions of it, perhaps. Um, I'm actually in the process of doing visuals for each track, and I'm going to
Oh,
release it on YouTube. But it's from '96, so it's quite a while ago. Um, but anyway, it never got. I would never legally properly release it because it would be a licensing nightmare.
oh
Um,
yes.
it would be so. Best just to say, here it is. It's free. Take it. Do what you like. Um, and and then let's see. One of my neighbors from London moved to Toronto for several years. A guy named Paul Laventhal. He was the guitar player for King Kurt, and
Mm.
he was really into. He was really into. Um, oh shoot! One of those. Not Dick Dale.
Oh, would it been
The big song was Jack the Ripper. Um, anyway,
Bo did
okay.
not Bo Diddley?
No, no. One of these white guys that did like whammy guitar, kind of westerny almost. Not like like almost like the Ventures. So
Mm,
Dick Dale. There's Dick Dale. There's
Screaming Lord Such?
nope.
No,
No, we're
no.
talking about the '50s. Um, okay, hang on a minute. Just we're going to edit this part out as
Yes,
well.
let's just
Let's see, Jack the
so
Ripper song.
cover
Jack.
versions. Well, it sounds like it was originally done by Screaming Lord Such from his. But I don't. Who knows? Casey Jones.
Wow, you are right. There's
I know there's
uh
interesting stuff.
no, this is not.
This is not quite the same. There must be a
Oh, it's
slight.
nothing.
There's
No,
nothing. Joe Meek.
no.
No.
Um
Anyway.
Anyways, well, I'll find the name and I'll get it to you later. But so Paul was really into that kind of sound, and so he was working with a drummer named Keith McInnes, and I can't remember the bass player's name. And he asked me would I want to play keyboard for it, and I went, Dave, it's about time you got out of this slump you were in, and you should. This would be a really good thing for you to not be the focus of attention, to not be the leader of the group. This would be a good experience to be a member of a group. And so I said yes. So we just played nothing but this guy's material. And then Paul got the idea. What would really make this show that we're doing even better is if we did it to girls peeling their clothes off. So we did a show called um, The Dangerettes with Jack the Ripper. So the band we were in was called Jack the Ripper, and we had this dance duo, this striptease duo called the Dangerettes, and we did it for 1 year, playing every other month at this little bar in North Toronto, and really developed a reputation for like the first show was maybe the bar filled up, was half full. By like within 3 months, 4 months, people were lined up all the way down the stairs and out into the street. It became very popular. And so we had to take it to a larger venue, and yeah, that was really fun. We went from a 4-piece to, oh gosh, sometimes we were as much as a dozen people on stage. We'd have like musicians who were in other bands would finish a set, you know, playing sax or trumpet or whatever at this venue, and then they'd come running over and do the last set with us, and the band would get bigger as the night wore on. And so, yeah, but naturally, like all good things, that fell apart because the friction between Paul and the girls.
Right.
Um, and then and then so I was, by that point I was working out of a post production studio, a little MIDI suite that I had, and so Keith would drop by. Now he had an electric kit, and so he brought that into the studio and just left it there permanently. And every Thursday or Friday, Saturday night, whatever, he'd just drop by. I was doing something, and so I'd stop whatever it was I was doing, and he'd go, "Hey, do you want to jam?" And I go, "Yeah, okay." We had this thing where we were doing like pure house music, where because Keith had this uncanny ability to just like lock in as good as any metronome, as good as any machine. His sense of meter was just perfect, and so he would provide the drum machine, but human drum machine. He would play his electric kit, and I would just spin in loops and such. And we only played at 120. That was that was the thing, and we'd sit there and we get high as kites and just have a blast and go for hours and hours and hours. And then one time, my buddy Jeff, who owned the studio that I was working out of, he there was a North by North by Northeast in Toronto that year, and so he got us a bill. So we on a stage we did about an hour long, 40-minute set, something like that, 45. Jeff was doing a live drum and bass set, and we went on before him with our house set, And before us was a band that had a hip hop song and a soul song and a funk song and a pop song, and the audience didn't stay because it was just dial a style.
Right.
They didn't lock into something. They had, too much variation. And so the audience up and walked away. And so when Keith and I went on, actually me and Keith, excuse me, I should call it, because the band was called Me and Keith.
Yeah.
When me and Keith when we got on the stage, there was maybe 5 people strolling around this big open space area. So, hey, no pressure. We had a little intercom system between each other so that we could talk. We could hear each other saying things like, okay, maybe the next bar, just drop out the kick. Okay, and so we could communicate that way. But he was watching the change. He could, from his vantage point, he could see once we'd started people pouring down the streets through the intersection and then coming into this. Basically, it was just a big parking lot with a PA system at one end. But I couldn't see them because they were just to my, over my shoulder. I would have had to turn around and look. At one point, I could hear Keith going, "Turn around." I go, "Sorry, what? Turn around." "Sorry, I can't understand you. Say it again." "Turn around." "Huh?" I turned around. Oh my God, David, the whole place was packed. I mean,
Right.
packed. He had watched this happening. And he kept saying to me, "Turn around," but I couldn't hear him. I didn't understand what he was saying. And finally, when I did, I turned around and, oh my God. And all these happy, beaming faces just all bouncing up and down to 120 BPM. So, yeah. So that's something else of ours you can, mine, I guess you could say, you can find online. Me and
Yes.
Keith.
Me and
Um,
Keith.
yeah.
So
And,
then, and then
yeah.
2007, is this when you decide to work with Max again to bring the band?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah,
Who is
I
Max, by the
had been,
way?
I had been doing the Dave Howard Singers as a solo act, maybe, yeah, maybe around that time. That's yeah, actually, no, even before that, in the late '90s, I think I did a few gigs um, as the Dave Howard Singers, but yeah, and periodically I will do that. I think the last one of the last shows. No, no, not no. That's sorry. A recent show, not recent. A prominent one was a small bar opening for Lydia Lunch,
Right.
um, which that was 2012. So um, that was actually a really good show. It was everybody in the whole venue was dressed head to foot in black leather, black denim, black. And I wore I wore a gray business suit. I looked
Classic.
like the then Toronto mayor, Rob Ford.
Right.
Um, and I just like, to me, I was the one who was being counterculture. So, yeah. And those kids were they were great. They were just, didn't matter what I was playing. They were very into it. So that was, yeah, I really enjoyed that show. And yeah, I've done some other things, but I will periodically come back and perform gigs as the Dave Howard Singers.
Yes. So
I
do you have your material now? Have you managed to collate it together as some nice to, I don't know, compilation CD that's got all your work on it?
Are you setting me up, or are you
No,
actually
no.
honestly innocently asking?
I'm just
Okay.
innocently
So
asking because it seems like you've
okay.
had releases here, releases there, but you know, but a few.
So back, yeah, back in 2007. Actually, it was before 2007, but It was more like 2003 or four. I get this email from another guy named Nick out of Bristol, I think. I think Nick's from Bristol. And
Mm.
he says, oi, Dave. Yeah, he probably didn't say oi. He says, Dave, uh, look at this. And he attaches a link. And I click on it, and it's Peter's ex-wife. Now, yeah, they're now divorced. He got married. They're now divorced. He in my divorce settlement with him, he walked away with all of the master tapes, the 2-inch
Oh, that Pete,
multi-tracks,
your
the
boss,
quarter
Pete.
inch.
Yeah, your
Yes,
manager, Peter.
my old manager.
Yes.
He things didn't end well there either, and that is also a very funny story, but we don't have time to go into it. Suffice to say, he walked away with all those tapes, and so then, yes, by 2003, 2004, there's a Nick. This other Nick tells me to check this link, and there is Peter's ex-wife saying, "I have all of the everything that the Dave Howard singers ever recorded. I'm looking to sell it. Whoever wants it, name a price." And she was looking for something like, let's say 4,500 quid.
Mm.
That's what she wanted for it. Where she came up with that number, I don't know. And then Nick writes me back. It's gotten worse. It's on eBay. So but fortunately for me, not being all that popular, the only bid that got mentioned on eBay was somebody from Auckland offering 5 quid for it. And so Susan said no. And then I wrote her a letter and I said, all right, could you please take those down, and I'll send you, like a money order or something. And so, yeah, it was $10,000 Canadian.
Right.
So I basically paid for her 2 boys to go to summer camp in Canada that year. And yeah, well, anyways, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So, long story short, I now possess all those tapes, and I took the masters. Uh, Someone owed me a favor at a mastering studio, probably one of the world's best mastering studios in Toronto. It's in Toronto, called the Lacquer Channel.
Mm.
Um, George Hamilton was Hamilton, yeah, is like this guy. This guy produced all of Peter Gabriel's albums, or not produced, excuse me, mastered all of
Right.
Peter Gabriel's albums. So yes, he's somebody that. No, it's not Hamilton. George. Okay, I'll find that name too.
Yeah.
And I want to say Graves, George Graves. I think that's it.
Hmm.
Anyway, uh, so yeah, I was able to get him to master all this stuff, and so I created a compilation CD. It's called "What Your Girlfriend Threw Out or Your Friend Never Returned,"
Oh, yes, I see it.
and
2006.
yes,
George
so
Graves.
yeah, that's it does say George Graves on it.
It says George Graves. It's there on
Good.
beautiful, and it's all there as a compilation. Oh, brilliant! So you must be quite chuffed with that. So that's the CD you've got. Do you have a digital download as well?
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp. Ah, so if anyone needs to find it, it's all there. Okay, so you've archived all your work anyway.
You can find so that CD is on Bandcamp. Uh, the album that Ghetto should have released, but their gas, you know what I mean by gas, agent, German, Austria, Switzerland,
Right.
a label called Intercord a German label called Intercord. They did release the album called "It's About Time," um, and so that's also on Bandcamp. And you will also find, as I mentioned earlier, me and Keith on Bandcamp. And I'm also very proud to announce to you, anyways, it's 2 years old now, but I produced an album that is so far removed from the Dave Howard singers that I didn't want to confuse anybody. I wanted people to hear it and know that it was there, but not to confuse them in thinking that they were getting a Dave Howard Singers record. So it's called The Dave Howard Singularity, and the album is called Dark and Foreboding,
Right.
and that is also on Bandcamp. And I will also point out that the record label, which is Smash Records, is Nick Smash. He said, "I want to release that for you." So I said, "Thank you.
Oh,
I will
oh,
take your money."
it'll be a nice thing to do. Nick Howard. Jeezy Queasy.
No,
What?
Nick
Nick
Smash.
Smash. God, I know I should have
Yeah,
been concentrating. So that's nice. All your
Nick
other.
Howard's my nephew.
Yeah, no, God, sorry about that. Peter Noble, what happened to him? Is he still alive or is he?
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. He's probably healthier. He's healthier than me. He had a company called PL Noble PR, I think. Yeah, public relations, which was really that. Other than being a photographer, was his niche. He went off and did publicity for other people. Did quite well for himself. After he and his first wife got divorced, he met another redhead and married her, and they're living the dream in somewhere in south central Spain, I believe.
Right.
And so I'm very happy for him. And we don't really keep in touch anymore, but we're at least civil with each other, you know?
Yes. Well, so is he now called Noble PR?
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Right. There you go. My God, that is just fantastic. What a story. What an amazing story you've got there. It's just yes, it's a lot of twists and turns, really, aren't there? You've got to
Yep.
admit that was good. And do you ever keep in touch with anybody like Bick or Terry, or have they? Is that sort of all long gone?
Well, Terry, no. Last time I spoke with Terry, I was still living in London, so yeah, that's been a while. Bick, uh, Bick, I got an email from him a couple of years ago, and back in the late '90s, I'm going to say, he got in touch with me, and he was in town. He was the guitar tech for My Bloody Valentine's main guitarist. They were touring Canada, North
Oh,
America. So Bick was their guitar tech,
right.
and so yeah, when between sound check and showtime, Bick had some about an hour to kill, and so yeah, we hung out and caught up with each other, and yeah, it was that was great. Kevin, I keep in touch with Kevin Hopper through Facebook. I'll drop in a comment periodically, as will he.
Yes.
Um, uh, Daniel, saw Daniel a couple of months ago. He married a good friend of mine. I guess you could say I sort of introduced him to her. And they both live in Peckham now. They have a son, and so yeah, they because Charmaine, his wife, has friends and family here. They fly out occasionally on when during the good weather, and so yeah, I got to spend an afternoon with them with them all. This August or September, I think it was. And who else? Simon, I haven't spoken to him much. I did see him. I went back to London in 2007. It was weird. It'd been, if I had lived there for 8 years, it had been 16 since I
Right.
got back. Since I got back, because of course, at that age, 8 years was a long time, and 16 years went by like so fast, way too fast. And since 2007, it's gone by even faster.
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway, but that was the last time I saw Simon. Um, Bevan, saw him at that same trip. Um, yeah, you know. Um,
Good stuff. Well,
yeah.
amazing story. And I have to say, well, thank you again for your time. I mean, it's been quite a journey, hasn't it, actually? It's been quite a journey. But yes, well, Howard, yes, I'll no, not Howard, Dave. I'll I'll let you rock on because I'm gonna have to go to bed soon because I'm quite tired. But thank you for yes, agreeing to this. I hope that's all good with you. I will keep in touch. And if you want, I can always send you a link to the interview and then you could put it on your social media platform sites because people love doing that. But yes, thanks again.
I would love to. I can't wait. Now, is this going to be an audio release, or is it do you transcribe it?
Oh, audio. So it'll make life so much easier. People just love to put it on. And I think especially because, people, have these flashbacks when they see who I've had on the show and they go, my God, I remember that artist. I wonder what they're doing. So that's why a lot of people quite enjoy what I do, because it's often people who are slightly, yes, they've got their body of work, but they've also slightly disappeared, I suppose, from the scene. And it's always quite nice to hear someone's story. So it's been lovely. But yeah, so look, I better go to bed soon because I'm so tired. But thank you for your time. I'm really, really grateful for that. Sorry if I looked a bit tired at times, but it's 11 o'clock, so in the UK.
Yeah,
But yes,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
keep in touch. And I mean, if it's ever possible, I'd love to play some tracks on the show. If you've got any MP3s that you think, could send me a couple, that would be also quite handy. Do you have any MP3s of any of the material you've got?
Yeah. Any tracks in particular, or if that's something you want to think about, if there's
Yeah, I'll
something
have.
that you'd like anything in particular, yeah, just drop me a line,
Oh,
and
yeah, that would be great actually, because it was quite nice
you
to
you
put.
you you yeah, you have my email address now, so you
Yes,
don't
I
have to
do.
you don't
Go
have to
through.
use Messenger.
No, I know. Yes, this is true. But look, I'll let you go. But thank you again for your time. I really appreciate this. This has been really great. And have a great winter. It's very cold here at the moment. It's
It's
well,
very cold there.
yes, Grell. Well, not very cold, but it's cold and dark. As you can imagine, it's grey.
Uh,
Just think grey. It's a lot of grey
so
here.
so a typical English November. Okay.
Yes, wet, cold, and grey. It's very hard work. But we keep on trying. That's
All
the
right.
way. Okay, take care, and thank you
Fair
again for
enough.
your time. See you
All right.
later. Bye bye.
Well,
Bye.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, David, for the interest. I really appreciate it. And yes, you get good
Yes,
sleep. All right.
yes. Take care.
Take
Bye
care.
bye. Bye.
Bye bye.
Oh no, dear listener, that was an emotional farewell. But anyway, a massive thank you to Dave Howard for that interview. And if you want to know any more information, various social media platform sites might have some link to his bits and pieces. But this has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on any of those social media platform sites. Just do C86 show. And also, all these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. True. Have a great week. Stay safe.